Good morning, Indira Garu.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Morning, Dr. Amit. Yes.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me, Professor Shiv Prasad?
I was just calling.
Okay, I couldn't hear, so now I can. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice of you to be here.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much.
Shiv Prasad. Yeah. Next, let me give an overall view of this project. As you know, there are SDG goals which Government of India also follows. That is sustainable development and inclusive growth. So as to achieve sustainable development and inclusive growth, we have to make empowerment of the youth. But how can we make the empowerment of the youth? By providing the youth employment, by creating more jobs in different sectors. So that can be done only through developing student talent. Okay, the student talent, how to develop the student talent? The student talent can be developed through the curricular, through the curriculum. That means through the courses that we teach in the educational institutions in general, particularly in this university. So that's why here, as an institute of eminence, University of Hyderabad now focuses on the youth employment in the sense the students that are going to complete this Institute of Eminence will get immediately will be employed. So for that, what we have to do, we have to make changes in the curriculum, number one, and number two, we have to have co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So these co-curricular and extracurricular activities can be developed by building capacities of the institution itself. Capacities in the sense, academic capacities of the university. These academic capacities can be developed not in isolation, in the sense by the academia itself. We need to have an active collaboration with the industry, institutions, NGOs, communities, etc. That's why this project is named as Integrating Talent Development into Innovation Ecosystems in Higher Education. So that we want to have an integrated approach to develop student talent. for sustainable and inclusive growth. So how do we do it? What are the activities that we have done under this project? That is, one is knowledge and skill development. The second one is innovative ideas, because we need to develop knowledge and also knowledge related skill development. Why do we need it? That's what the National Education Policy and also Policy 2020, Government of India, and also the University Policy on Entrepreneurship or Innovation envisages that there should be a knowledge and skill-based development, and the skill development should be incorporated into the knowledge. That means the skill development and knowledge should go hand in hand in the curriculum itself. So we think that this will improve employability potentialities by participating in community services, because the employability potentialities can be developed not only with the collaboration with the industry, but also through the community services. So through the community services and also through participation of the NGOs in the curriculum development, in the skill development, etc. I think you all agree with me. That's what now earlier the active collaboration with the industry only was treated as academia industry collaboration was treated as the only channel to develop the employability. But now it is not just a research and research in collaboration with the industry, but also the active participation of the industry in academic activities, in the sense that it is not only to develop some research projects with the industry and NGOs, the NGOs and the industry will be the members of the University Academic Council, let us say, our school board, or curriculum development committees of the centers of the department, so that at each level, right from the department level, center level, to the university highest body, academic council, we have to have involvement of the industry, NGOs, and community organizations. So this only can give a practical curriculum. So practical curriculum in inverted commas, practical curriculum. This practical curriculum will certainly, you all agree with me, will improve the employability potentiality of the students. And this is so far as the curriculum part is concerned. So teaching pedagogy part is concerned. When it comes to the research, we have to have innovative ideas. Now, if this innovative ideas is a general term that is being now a buzzword, which we had now in academia, in industry, everywhere. But so far as academia is concerned, what I personally think and what in the project also we try to implement, innovative ideas means the ideas that are socially, economically relevant to the society. Okay. Earlier, as you know, research, the main research was focused only on pure academic outcomes. But now the things have changed with globalization and with the economic policy of Government of India. So now innovative ideas means we need to have the industry collaboration, NGOs collaboration, so that we can develop socially and economically relevant research. Socially relevant research will improve the inclusiveness. The economically relevant research will contribute to the sustainable development. Next slide. Sustainable development. Okay. So what we have conducted a couple of projects under these surveys, I mean to say, under this project, these surveys shows that how to improve capacity of innovation, how to improve capacity of innovation, how to improve research, how to improve employability of the students, and also what to do to improve innovation, research, and employability of the students. That means what are the strategies that we have to adopt in the university to improve the employability. So the survey in general has demonstrated that the faculty as well as students are very keen to participate in to have collaboration with external stakeholders. In the sense, now the academia is not within the walls of the university. The academia, now the university want to go aggressively in positive sense to have collaboration with the industry, with the NGOs, with the community services people, whoever is interested to have collaboration with us. And we are also very much interested. And from our side also, we will take all steps to forego such collaboration. And we think that such collaboration will not only develop the employability, but also it will promote the skill development, and also whatever just as I mentioned just now, that we can take up socially relevant projects, economically viable, and also economically useful projects. Because normally the ultimate aim of the university is to fulfill its social responsibility. The social responsibility of the university can be fulfilled only if the university takes up the issues that are related in a particular region where the university is located, number one, and also in the country, that what are the issues, that what are the plans of that particular nation in economic growth or social growth, social development, or whatever it may be. So that's why, as you know, as you all agree, as leaders of the industry and NGOs and also policy makers, that we need to have active collaboration with the industry, with all external stakeholders in modern sense. That means it is not just collaboration for the sake of collaboration. We have to bring a really useful results to the society and solve the economic and social problems that are faced or are experienced by the society. That's why what we think that there is what is expected is that broad monitoring by different enablers such as investors, industry, legal, finance, regulatory, IP, intellectual property rights, and also etc. So as to prepare innovators for future challenges. As you know, nowadays, in the present times, it is not just bringing out a product or doing just a social service. There are number of other issues with the development of modern technologies. There are a number of other issues related to our activities, both academic and collaboration with the industry. All these activities have to be looked at from multidisciplinary angle, from the multi-stakeholder angle. So that's why we need to have a comprehensive approach towards collaboration in general, and in particular, the collaboration, academia, industry, NGO collaboration. So let me very briefly present you what since if you let me recall my first slide, in which I have said that we have to have co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So as a part of extracurricular activities, we have set up Student Community Service and Volunteering Center to collaborate with non-profit and community organizations in order to create opportunities for student volunteering, and also help the student to describe and assess the skills that they gain during volunteering. So, as you know, now through the center, we are now encouraging students to participate in the community services, and for that we will also incorporate in the curriculum itself some credit points for that, or some certificate to recognize their services, and these voluntary services should be linked with the employability skills. So employability skills are not just gaining technical skills. Employability skills are not just gaining academic skills. Employability skills should be linked with the volunteering services. So next, as a part of the co-curriculum platform, we have under the project, we have developed online platform. This is called Talent Co-Creation Lab. This platform provides a space for academia, industry, companies, NGOs, public organizations, government organizations to develop innovative ideas. These ideas can be, this is online platform, and through this online platform, the idea once registered on the online platform, it will be converted into a project. For example, any organization, if it is an idea to be shared with the university, for example, in this case, with the university, they can put the idea on the online. Once you register online, you will have you will have access to the user login and admin login, because the platform will have user login and admin login. Once you register online, once you go to the website, you have to register. Once you register, you will have access to the user login. So you can register your idea, or you can register your project. That project through the center, through the Innatal project, it will be converted into the idea will be converted into a project. For example, if a company has placement requirement, they can also put that idea on the user login. Next. So this is the user login. Yeah, sorry. So this lab is equipped with computers and multimedia. And through this lab also, through this Innatal platform, we want to promote with external stakeholders, internships, entrepreneurship training programs, innovative projects, innovative ideas, whatever is possible in collaboration with external stakeholders. All this now have been made online. So we have computers and multimedia. This is the lab that we have set up in the center. So as I told you, you have to register to the, first you have to register, and then you have to log into through the login ID. A project is created through the login ID, and admin, the idea, once the idea is posted in the project, then the idea through admin login, that is admin login is maintained by the center. So through admin login, the idea will be converted into a project. So with the small brief presentation, I would like once again thank you and invite you for collaborations. And we are here to have further discussion, and we want to listen to you, your opinion, and also possible collaborations in future. Thank you very much. So now it is open for discussion and proposals or any clarifications also.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Indira from KBR and HD Foundation.
Yeah.
So
welcome.
glad to learn about this initiative. And one question, the first question I have is, when you talk about this Innotel and what to say, building skills or employability skills among students,
Mhm.
don't you think we need to first prepare the faculty or teachers on this? That is the first and foremost step for any innovative idea, whether they adopt this easily or some resistance would be there and all. That is one. The reason is I'm into e-learning when I have been trying to for the past 10 plus years or so to introduce e-learning or blended learning and all, but resistance was there, resistance for change. Fortunately, because of this COVID pandemic, we could bring in all the changes that we wanted to bring in. That is one. And the point I liked from your presentation is service learning. Actually, NEP 2020 draft policy talked about this service learning a lot. Engage
Yes.
students in service learning, student volunteership, and as you said, giving some weightage credit, that is also mandatory. Unless and otherwise we give some credits or weightage, I don't think student will actively participate in all these. And the
Yes.
other idea I like is that is every project we take up, I mean, you take up should have some socio-economic impact.
Yes.
Generally in India, in academic research and all, mostly just for the sake of getting a doctorate kind of thing. So I think this your project will change that and transform for the benefit of India. And we would like to collaborate with Innotel, sir, our NGO. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Indira Garu. Yes, I agree with you totally that once we say that training, it is not only training of the students, it includes the training of the teachers and if required staff also. So we should have, because the project itself says that building integrated ecosystem. Integrated ecosystem, education ecosystem can be built not only by giving training to only faculty or only students or only staff. So once it is university, the staff, faculty and students, all three major stakeholders within the university, all three should be well trained to meet the present demands. Number one. Number two, yes, we welcome your suggestion to have collaboration with us. And I think we can discuss in detail little later bilaterally. And yes, number three, yes, the NEP policy and not only draft the final policy, also encourages community services, which is linked with the employability skills. So that's why we want to, through this project, actually, this project has started much before the NEP. Okay.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. So luckily, whatever we have investigated in the project and whatever the results of the project, almost all results of the projects will now coincide with the NEP. Okay.
Great.
The basic idea of the NEP. So in that sense, this project is very much relevant, not only to the university, to the education policy in the country itself. So that's why once we successfully implement these approaches or models, whatever strategies that we adopt in future to reach our goals, which are identified in the project, these can be replicated in other universities in the country. So in that sense, this project is not only have relevance to the university, but also in future, if not right now, today itself, but in future, it will be also have significance to the entire education system in the country.
True, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Can I add a little?
Yeah, Professor Prasad Garu, Dr. Amar Khan would like to speak.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Shiv Prasad. It is really delightful. What you have presented is something that most of us have been wanting to do because, primarily because of the post-COVID world, where we know that we are going to do this largely on digital platforms. And it is so much more efficient to do that. What I am offering, Professor Shiv Prasad, is that there are three different groups that I work very closely with. One group is a very large group whose objectives are exactly similar to what yours are, and that is called the Digital Empowerment Foundation. Under the Digital Empowerment Foundation, we have over the last 20 years done exactly the same thing, that is, use communities to build digital skills through mentorship, through training, and through very active e-commerce platforms. And in a variety of areas, we have been very successful. We started off in Chanderi in Madhya Pradesh, and now we are the latest project is here in Telangana, where we are working with the Pochampalli weavers. So that is one model that that you really like to share and enable and ensure that it uses this wonderful platform that you have built. The second exercise that we are doing, which again you will find very interesting, given your objectives, is that during COVID we found that most of us were gainfully unemployed. We were not teaching. The universities were closed, and so a bunch of us from across the world, largely in North America and Europe, we got together to say that, look, what we should do is that now that we are all, pretty senior and we have done a fair bit of work in our respective areas, what we did was we set up a web-based platform, and we called it the platform, that would mentor young students, because we were basically from Hyderabad, most Hyderabadi migrants abroad. So what we did was we focused on the Hyderabad graduates from all these various colleges that we have, young graduates who are just getting ready to get into grad school abroad or into postgraduate programs and needed some hand holding. So what we've done is that we've made that platform where we regularly guide these young students into research activities, into placement activities, because as you know so well, that's an age when there are so many unanswered questions. So that is the second, and we will be only too happy to work with this brilliant platform, because this really takes us across universities, and I'm sure that if you replicate this, it would be great to replicate it in the entire country. The third that I offer is our center, the Center for Development Policy and Practice. So what we do is that we use digital technology, and we've used it very extensively over the last year and a half to encourage young researchers, young scientists, young economists to work on reaching on welfare schemes, on evaluating them, on ensuring that they understand what development means, on looking at the data, and to answer policy questions using all these web-based technology and data sets that are available today. So on all three, we find that we have exactly the same objectives as Innotel does. It is integrating talent development, it is innovation, and it targets higher education. So we would be only too delighted to work with you on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Amar Khan, for your very encouraging words. Yeah, as I told you that the Cinetal project has started almost 4 years ago. So,
yes.
So that's why whatever unfortunately the pandemic situation has teached us, and the new NEP policy, all these after the assessing, all these actually coincides finally after 4 years, coincide with the objectives and outcomes of the INATOL project. So in that sense, we will also very much delighted to have collaboration with you, and I think we will work concretely, more concretely together, and we will go. We are ready.
We'll be honored. We'll be honored.
Thank you so much, Professor Prasad Garu.
Yeah, I think it is really good because Dr. Amir Khan is actually has been active in many of these things, and he has a lot of experience in many of these areas. I think it will be a pleasure to have him to collaborate with us. And also what Ms. Indira was talking about, we have taken up also as a part of this project, training the faculty as well as the students, because we have internal stakeholder meetings, internal stakeholder trainings, and external stakeholder meetings, and like what we are having today in the final one. So this is an ongoing process. I think we will certainly will try and take forward the whole set of things that we are planning. I think it's for the larger good, because we have a similar project we are doing it called University Social Responsibility. University Social Responsibility, this is a part of that. So we will definitely involve not only Dr. Amir Khan and Indira, and of course quite a few are here. I would also like to listen from them also. Thank you very much, Professor.
Yeah, just to add, Professor Prasad Garu, that we have already started collaborating with the Confederation of Indian Industry and FICCI, and also Government of Telangana, Department of Social Welfare. So we are collaborating with them already in the on this platform, and also we have identified some organizations, both national and international organizations. I mean to say business groups and organizations whom we are going to contact so that we can involve them in our activity. And also the second thing I would like to mention, that with regard to the university social responsibility, although it is not directly related with the project, but the outcomes of the project are directly related with the university social responsibility. Yeah, any suggestions or clarifications? Yes, sir.
So, Karthik, good morning. My name is Karthik Godavarti. Thanks, Professor Shiva Prasad Garu, for having invited me here. Sir, I'm so happy and glad to know that I think universities are finally focusing on employability rather than just trying to create a basic skill set for employment. Going by, the various the mission goals of this project, I was wondering if university can leverage its influence and collaborate with the CII, FICCI, and FAPSI. They have a formidable presence in Hyderabad, and I'll also try to engage with them to make sure that there can be some kind of a collaboration as we go into the future. And coming to the context of NGOs, actually, I've been a Rotarian for the last 20 years or so. And both me and my wife, we are major donors for Rotary International. And I should be honest in saying that the so-called professional behavior and the adaptability and the ability to manage stress is something that I have learned by doing community service projects in Rotary. It has provided fantastic leadership opportunities for people, in order to learn while doing things and learning the best possible way. And it also involves a lot of collaboration and communication. And if it's possible, if it is allowed, then I may probably engage with a couple of established Rotary clubs in Hyderabad and bring them over and see if we can have any kind of a collaboration, so that something like a community service club can be created for the students who are interested. And those people may be involved in either vocational service, as we call it, or community service at the field level. And it naturally and automatically enhances, their problem solving and decision making skills. And also at the same time, they develop a lot of self-confidence by the time they step out of the university. The employment should not be the first place where they experiment with themselves. They should be done with everything before they enter the ecosystem of, the business or whatever they are involved in. And also, if it is possible, I have an advice, pardon me if it is already being done, but I think we should look at, as I think Indra Garu has mentioned, that all these co-curricular activities that are being rolled out as a part of this program should be getting some kind of an academic credit, and that should happen at the highest level possible in the university. It should probably be recognized by the Government of India, because in USA, for example, recently one of my nephews, he was providing his services as a volunteer to sit with lonely patients in the wards during his off time because the universities were closed down. And he got academic credits for the volunteer time. He was just providing some kind of bedside, not even a bedside assistant, but was providing company to the patients who did not have any relatives coming to look after them. So any small intervention, if it can be supported by and empowered by credits, maybe that would be a carrot for the rest of the folk to join the bandwagon. That's what I would honestly feel, sir. And Rotary also will provide an opportunity to develop their expertise in skill development. In fact, we can design a project for them, so much so that they can actually engage themselves in the areas that they like. And a lot of things happen in Rotary. Most of it is silent, but that is another option that can be explored, sir. And in case you need any help regarding personality development or skill development or emotional intelligence or stress management, I know of a couple of people who would be willing to do it. Gratis is what I'm talking about. Whatever that the students may require, count me in, sir. I'll be there to help you out in any way. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you. It's a great session, Karthik Garu. So we really welcome your proposal to have a cooperation with Rotary, and I think we can discuss it further little later. And
Surely.
yes, I agree. Secondly, I also agree with you that because of the pandemic, there is a lot of stress on the society in general, naturally on students also. So the services that are being offered by the Rotary are very much useful to the students. We have here community center and also health center, health psychology department, medical science department. So we can have, this is the actually idea that you can float through the Innatal platform. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that's what the Innatal platform is there. Okay,
Yes.
so through that platform, we will do it. And thirdly, let me also inform you that the university has set up a committee to implement NEP in the university. So what we are going to, we have already made a session to the committee that the community services are to be proper, are to be formally recognized. Community services by the students, even if by the faculty also in their promotion or whatever it may be. Okay, so the communities, whoever it is, whether it is faculty, staff or students, especially students, have to be formally recognized. So we will come out with a official policy of the university in this regard. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. And one last thing, pardon me if I'm taking too much of time. Right now, we are working heavily in the domain of addiction prevention. If you think that's going to help our students in any which way, we can have some of the facilitators come over and have a small type, a couple of hours workshop in case it's not going to really disturb the hornet's nest in any which way. But I think that should also be some of the one of the things that we need to look at, because at the end of the day, a lot of their ability to deliver in the real world depends on their mental and physical health too.
Yeah, I think since we don't have, students are physically present on the campus, we can
Yeah.
have some online program.
Sure.
That is one thing. And with regard to the addiction, we are also working in the area of digital addiction. Okay, so we are working on digital wellness. This is the first university in the country which has come up with a platform, a website on digital wellness, where
Awesome.
we have posted some posters on the digital wellness, which can be freely downloaded. Number one. Number two, we want to have for the first time the courses on digital wellness, such as digital parenting, fake news, digital addiction, etc. So these we are doing with an NGO called End Now. So with End Now, we are working on digital addiction also.
Sure, sir. That's nice to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Sudhir garu. Sorry, Sridhar.
My apologies, sir, to join a bit late in this interesting conversation, and I could manage to join towards the last when Amir Khan sir was speaking. And a couple of quick points from what Karthik sir was mentioning, that I completely agree with him, that providing some kind of exposure into social work or such activities, not just help them to come over stress, but also it greatly helps in leadership. And I was lucky to have such exposure. But a couple of quick points based on what Karthik sir was mentioning is, one gap that I saw when I graduated from the university was there was nobody to at least tell us, if I wanted to join NGOs, how to go about it. So I joined as a research faculty somewhere. Then with my interest, I made it to the INGO sector. But had I, if there was some kind of a hand-holding or guidance, then probably we would have made our careers much, in terms of, that advantage would always have been with us since the beginning. What Karthik sir was mentioning, for example, internships, what I see now in international NGOs is there are summer 1 month, 2 months, and most of the universities are encouraging students. And it is not just internship, but it greatly adds value on the CVs for further studies. Plus, even if they have completed the studies and want to join employment, this kind of exposure is very, very important. So internships probably not only for the students who have completed, but also students who are in the first semester, second semester, due to the semester breaks. You can consider and have a list of organizations that can provide internships. That's one. And it can be a certified internship, not just kind of a filler. Plus, I also see after working for 20 years in the sector, I realized that technology is taking over INGOs too, because we always thought that we are connected to the community, so online doesn't work. But the last 6 to 8 months is teaching us new experiences on a daily basis. So technology is going to stay, and it is going to also bring down the costs of operations of INGOs. So therefore, there would be I just give an example. For example, if I have to give cash for work, earlier my team would go to a community, sit with them, provide them physical cash. But now cash has also become digital, and the process is also becoming digital. Right? So some of our organizations are using apps developed for these specific purposes to run the programs. So that is something probably you can bring in when you said about running a digital center, how digitalization is going to impact the social sector in terms of delivery. So that is something I can quickly comment on. Plus, another point is that you mentioned about fake news. That's now on democracy, organizations working on democracy like us. Fake news is a big threat to the democracy. And so how to contain it before the damage is done? Those things, if you can also contextualize then there will be a clientele for your center to work on such projects, including us. Similarly, one of the largest threat going to be in future, I come from child rights, so one of the largest threat that is going to be in future is online child protection, because all these years we thought, children, if they are at home, they are safe. But if children are in a closed room, they are not safe. So therefore, we have to see how online child protection can become institutionalized, not just in terms of trainings, because we have done enough trainings in the last 4 or 5 years, but how we can bring in into the university curriculums, so that because most of these people who are graduating from universities are future parents, so not that they are immediate beneficiaries, but also in terms of taking the expertise from your digital centers in using that. Say, for example, organizations like UN, UNICEF, Save the Children, they all have large projects on online child protection, including on the dark web. So therefore, if such contextualized programs can be brought in, which are contemporary and emerging, probably that would also give the students coming out of a Central University an edge over other graduates. That is where I stop. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sridhar Garu. I totally agree with you. Yeah, Inatall platform provides an opportunity to make proposals on internships also. That is number one. Number two, yes, we have to have something, some digital detoxification, so-called digital detoxification. Nowadays, it is called like that. Digital detoxification projects also, ideas also, which will be promoted by the university as a part of outreach program and as a part of university social responsibility. So your ideas are welcome, and please let us know whatever, if you have any further ideas, please do not hesitate to share with us. Maybe we can work together, all of us. I mean to say, not only one person, all of us can work together, and because it is a socially relevant issue which we have to take up. All of us together can only do it. So thank you very much for your sessions.
Hello, sir. Good morning to all. I am Mridula. I am also alumni of University of Hyderabad. Currently, I work with Dr. Reddy's Foundation. I was with the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, Department of Panchayati Raj and Rural Development for quite a long time, almost 8 to 10 years. And I've also worked with a lot of government organizations, bilateral projects. Sir, we've always found that students from TIS or IITs, IIM are most preferred. We take them as young professionals, and we, as a government organization or bilateral projects, we invest a lot of money on training them to become future policymakers, administrators. So there is a lot of inputs given to resources provided to these students from premier institutions. I was always at loss. I always try to look for students from University of Hyderabad, and I mean, unfortunately, not many. So I feel that this is a right time, that it is actually late, but better late than never. Sir, it is a very good initiative. We need to give that exposure to our students and prepare them to become good leaders, good administrators, good politicians, policymakers. And as NGOs, we are willing to provide all the support, create the platform also to them, work with you. We can give that exposure, both training as well as field exposure to your students. And please count on us. We will give that field exposure platform to them. And I request you, sir, to also invite big national projects like NRLM, that is Ajivika project, or RYSS. These are all large projects, Government of India projects, and you can invite them to conduct on-campus interviews and select the students. That is also important. That will give the students interest to get into community work, get into practical knowledge, gain knowledge, exposure. Otherwise, they just limit themselves to academics. Good, academics is good, but coupled with field exposure will actually put them in a better position, sir, for future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrudula Garu, for your very, very encouraging suggestion. Okay, we will actually, the whole purpose of the project and this meeting is to work out such ideas. Okay, so this idea, I think you can put it on our Inatal platform, which is just now shared. Okay, or later you can write to me. I will give you more information if required about the platform. So what we can do is we will certainly work it out, and we are very much eager to implement and cooperate with you. And since you are alumni of this university, it is also your university responsibility, if not social responsibility. It is your university responsibility to take forward. You are already doing it. Okay, thank you very much. We will do it.
In fact, I wanted to tell, Mrudula runs a NGO for destitute women, and she is doing a large number of works. In fact, around 250, if I'm not mistaken, are members in that. And she is, doing environment-friendly activities in that, apart
Very
from
good.
providing them some livelihoods and other things. Thank you, Mrudula.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mrudula Garu, for your session. So any sessions, please?
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. This is Sudhir here. I'm also a alumni of a university, and thank you for this opportunity. Very interesting to read about Innotel project. I think the timing is perfect in terms of the intervention, and also it's a larger collaboration with international universities and the platform that you are actually creating for students. And been pleasure listening to Dr. Amir Khan and Karthik sir, as well as Sridhar and Mrudula madam. So I just wanted to continue the cue that I've given in terms of balancing the academics with practical. So currently I work with an organization which is actually funding 50 plus innovations in the healthcare space. It's called Samriddh Health with the support from USAID. And most of the innovations are actually run by young university grads who are just out of the college and stuff. So it's very heartening to see their commitment and dedication to the work, not just as a business from the point of view. I think they have the traction to address like long-standing issues in healthcare. I'm just speaking about healthcare because I'm exposed to it, but I think similar interventions are there in education and stuff. And COVID, I think in a way it has actually given an opportunity to explore the normal and beyond normal, and come up with innovations like online learnings and platforms that actually help. You can take the healthcare and education to the more remote and hard to reach areas. So I think students would actually benefit. I felt like one is definitely that learnings from such innovations and from just came out of the college and started this, what is their journey and things involved in it, issues. Like what we see is like there are two aspects that are very important. One is technological mentorship or kind of guidance for them, and then financial assistance. So how do they actually can access this? And from if it helps, if these individuals are brought to the universities and actually given an exposure to the students, one is that, and how the entire ecosystem works. And the second is if the most of these innovations or technologies work on with a lean team. I mean, very few people work on it. It gives a very good opportunity for students who can go for a summer internship or any 1 year work break, and then go through that entire cycle of innovation space. It actually helps both ways, individually in professional growth, but definitely it may ignite some innovative ideas which can actually address the challenges that India is grappling in many areas. And yes, we definitely be able to support, happy to contribute to Innotel journey, and always happy to do that. Thank you. Thank you for the investment.
Yeah, thank you, Sudhir garu. Thank you very much for your encouraging suggestion. Yes, we have, as you know, as alumni of this university, we have very strong School of Life Sciences, which is collaborating with Institute of Life Sciences on the campus. Reddy Labs, Navratri, and other companies are also there, and also the School of Medical Sciences. So here we have a great deal of research is going on, number one. Number two, we have very good students with innovative ideas in these schools, which can, who can actually, if provided an exposure, a good opportunity, they will become germs in the healthcare. And also, it is not that healthcare is only for making money. Okay, healthcare is for social good and for public good. So in that connection, we are also working through this project, through this Innotel platform. We are also working with Infection Control Academy of India, headed by Dr. Ranga Reddy.
Okay.
Okay, they are also doing great deal of work in the public health. Okay, so in that sense, your suggestion and is very well taken. I think we have to discuss further on this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Happy to connect these innovators to the Innotel. And if
please, we have just shared our Innotel platform login. So,
sure.
Okay, so link. So you can encourage your you, of course, personally, you and your startup gems to register and float their idea.
Great. Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Also, we can discuss. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think GV Krishna has raised his hand and now.
Sriram Bhopatraj.
Yeah. Sriram Garu, please. Yeah, just 1 minute, Sriram Garu. GV Krishna Garu has raised it already.
Yeah, it's an honor to be part of this. Hi, all. It's great to reconnect with my alma mater and some of my seniors and friends. My name is Krishna. I work in the domain of education technology. One of the discussion points I was just listening to Professor Shiv Prasad and Karthik and Mridula talking about. Today, the major challenge that organizations are facing is the talent, the employability, the so-called the employability skills. If I really, have to say a few things about employability skills, I think these skills can be traced back to the school education, the way education is delivered in the school domain or the K-12 domain. In the school domain, much of the work, of late, much of the work that's happening, even the NEP 2020 also talks about is assessment and evaluation. It is very, very central to all learning, and so also has an impact on the employability of a student when he graduates out of his college. Now, why assessment and evaluation are central to all learning is primarily at one level, the assessment instruments will diagnose the real ability levels of the students at a very early stage, which I feel is not predominantly present at the university level, at the higher education level, although it is there at the employability level, because much of the skill sets that are required in the corporate sector or in the organizations are identified through a series of psychometric assessments, which will actually define the ability levels of the students and their suitability to a particular job profile that is on offer by the organizations. So what we can do as a higher education stakeholders is to introduce certain diagnostic instruments or elements that will actually identify, for example, if a person wants to pick up sociology or anthropology as a subject, we can do a diagnostic assessment, although we have an entrance test that will actually on a very broad level identifies the suitability. But I think if you go a little deeper into the diagnostic elements, we can clearly map the skill sets, the ability levels required to really pursue a course like anthropology or a sociology or a political science, or for that matter any subject. Now that will actually eliminate the wanted from the unwanted. I'm not trying to take a very negative stand on this, but primarily when you actually do an ability grouping, this will create more specialists in the market, and so will have a very, very deeper impact on the organizational output, and will become more productive in terms of their own performances.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think what I'm trying to drive home is that I think, can we really look at introducing diagnostics at the entry level itself while we take in the students? One. Two, I think having taken these students into the campus or into the university or in the higher education level, can we really look at grouping these students based on their ability levels? The grouping is not to discriminate. The primary objective of diagnostics is to actually identify the ability levels. If you really look at, you will typically find patterns in the ability levels of many of the students. Typically, the students of, let's say, in a class of 30 or 40 students, these students will fall into 2 or 3 categories. Now, category 1, which will actually talk about the extremely brilliant, brighter students who are absolutely suitable for certain roles. I think those that category can be segregated. Similarly, category 2, who have ability levels slightly lower and can be, during the course of their learning process, can be built by the instructional methodologies that can be more industry centric, purely from an employability perspective. 3, the ones that are not fully suitable but would require some time to really groom, is another category that can be looked at by either reskilling or upskilling those students and then bringing them into the employability mode. I think these are some of the aspects that will play an important role in in actually enhancing the employability levels of the students pursuing higher education.
Okay.
So what is more important in terms of being employable is the suitability aspect of a particular student. Today we have a lot of instruments that are available. When I say instruments, they're not physical instruments, but these instruments are evaluation instruments. These will actually you have, I'm sure some of our friends will be aware of, we have psychometric instruments that will talk about the personality. Karthik was talking about personality, skill development, and those interest levels and all those. So there are instruments that will actually recognize and identify the personality of a particular person. and the interest level of a person and the skills or the aptitude, so-called aptitude that we call, all of these can be identified at a very early stage, and then the students can be groomed into students who will build their skill sets that will be suitable for employability levels. At one level, this is something that we can do it. At another level, I think we have instructional methodologies. We need to relook at the instructional methodologies that are being adapted in the higher education space. Much of NEP 2020 also talks about redesigning the redesigning instructional methodologies. Because with the advent of technology, I think instructors can, and the professors and the lecturers can actually use a lot of technology to actually articulate the content to the students in such manner that these skill sets will be built over a period of 1, 2, 3 years, and then they become employment ready. A lot of these organizations spend a bomb on actually upskilling and reskilling the students who are actually taken. The companies of Infosys, TCS, and especially sectors that are working in the IT domain, they spend a lot of money, crores of rupees, only on training. I think a lot of these things can be addressed at the university level itself, at the higher education level itself. One, it has two, it have multiple advantages. One, I think, your instructional, methodologies will undergo sea change. Two, I think the instructors themselves will be, taking a fresh approach to instruction. Three, I think the students will get to learn aspects that are going to be useful for them in their future life when they get employed. So my emphasis primarily is on assessment and evaluation techniques that can be brought in, the employable skills, and how these can be imparted using technology in the higher education space.
Yeah, I agree with you, Krishna, because you have raised very good points. One is that developing diagnostic tools, and the other one is developing instructional instruments. Okay, well, actually, the diagnostic tools will help us to identify the real interest of the student, number one, in the subject. Number two, the level of interest also.
True.
Okay, so in that sense, it's a very good idea. And so far as instructional tools or instruments are concerned, one of the objectives of e-learning center that we have set up in the university, one of its first centers in the country, e-learning center, is to do research in the education technology.
Right.
And as you know, we don't have, or we are lack of proper instructional designers.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that is when if there is any shortage of that, I can connect to some of the industry experts who can help us in redesigning the curriculum or redesigning the instructional methodologies. Absolutely, I'll be glad to volunteer in supporting.
Thank you. So that's why I think we can work in two directions. Number one, working out diagnostic tools. Number one. Number two, instructional instruments.
Right.
Okay, these two are are very important in the evaluation of the student, and also evaluation of the curriculum itself.
Correct.
Okay, so this brings us now, it is not that, as you mentioned about Karthik Garu, so we can have a multilateral collaboration. Let us say in this case, for example, just as an example, I am telling you, Karthik Garu, or you and University of Hyderabad, or if anyone would like to join, we can have multilateral collaboration in this regard, and we can work it out further, and we have a meeting on this, if you agree. And
Sure,
Karthik Garu also.
Sure.
Time, just
Sir,
let
you have to unmute.
Anytime, sir. Just let us know a convenient time and we'll be there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna garu.
Right.
Yeah, Sriram.
Hi, my name is Sriram. I'm an alumnus of the university. I work with two research institutions simultaneously as a consultant. One is called Center for Development Policy and Practice, and another one is Center for Research and Infrastructure Development Policy. And I work with Dr. Amir, who was on the call a little earlier. And Professor Shivaprasad was my guide for my MA. So coming to this idea, to the Innotel, and I do have a fundamental question here. As through the conversation, it was mentioned, we're all talking about employability of the student after the matter of fact that the student is ready to graduate, close to graduation, or after graduating. First of all, why are we not talking about this when the student is before the student gets in? When the student gets in, see, in accounting, there is this thing called what you put in is what comes out. I'm not saying, so hear me out. When we take in the students, why do we not give them conditional admission? Why do we let them take an admission into the university straight away for a certain course? I'll give my own department's example. I have asked my earlier HODs, how are you taking me into anthropology, which is such a qualitative subject based on a quantitative checkmark question answers? How would you ever know if I have the ability to use words in an ethnography? The intake criteria, or they said, we want to, whatever they said. So once I've gotten in, when is the department in the university making sure I have the basic skills to qualify to be an anthropologist? Where are my prerequisites? Is my 12th certificate a prerequisite? We all know 97% of graduates in this country are unemployed. So when we do give them admission for technical competence of that subject, there is also a part we miss in our admission process, where we give them a conditional admit saying, these are the courses you need to do in the first semester. Instead of a four semester MA degree or something, make it a 4.5 or a 5 semester and say the first semester consists of these life skills. And it is not a matter of pass or fail. You just need to say, I'm not saying kick them out if they fail. I'm not saying evaluate them. And no, we have a heart. We are a university. We're not a private entity where we kick people out. No, we are inclusive. And I'm saying this because it is only after getting public education, I realized that what education is. I've joined the university after working 15 years. And if at one place I feel where I've got an education, it is our university. It's a public university. Until then, in all through private education, I was skilled. I was given technique. I was given qualification and all of that, but not the holistic where I get to interact with a whole cross section of people and the richness of what a university can offer. So all of these is getting lost in the admission process itself. Or we have, when we do get students into the university, they have this feeling that they have arrived, and it is hard to teach someone with that sense of entitlement. I'm sorry if I'm using strong words. I hope I'm wrong. I wish I am wrong. But this is something that I've seen in the university. So the first semester itself, we give them exposure to things like, what is the university? What does the university expect? What are you expected as a graduate out? What value do you bring? So that they have another 3 or 4 semesters to work on. We should not be looking at things at the end semester. it's too late. So we should come up with some kind of a mechanism where we start engaging them with the industry. An internship is not something that we should be doing. I mean, it is definitely good. It'll give them practical experience of the job, but we need the way we hone our human skills or humaneness or what needs what. I can't put a point. I mean, unfortunately, education can't be described in one sentence, which is what I'm trying to say. I hope I'm making sense. So things like life skills module should be present from day one. Future perfection should be a thing of the graduate and not patchworking to the past of the student after or when they are ready to graduate. And the entrance itself should be, we go by certain ideals in the entrance of students. Ideals are good, but practicality also should be seen for the entrance. And there is a huge conundrum, even within our university, being the top university, between education and certification. How are we going to address those? These are qualitative aspects. And yeah, I think I took a lot more time than I intended to. Yeah. Thank you. Sir, I mean, if you have anything to say, I mean, I would appreciate.
Yeah. Thank you, Sriram, for your very critical presentation and proposal. I think that now I can say that you are really a student of Professor Shiv Prasad. Okay? Okay, because you talk about only fundamental issues, okay, right from the scratch, and see, look at the issues in a comprehensive manner. Yes, I agree with you, but it is the you have made certain policy suggestions. I think what we can do is, we can, if you put it in writing, these sessions, send it to us, we can propose these sessions to the university committee on implementation of NEP in the university, so that we can come up with the policy at the university level.
We'll do that, sir. We'll do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Then may I request Nitin Bedi to speak? Nitin?
Hello, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. This is one of the first times that I have been invited to or a part of, such a conference or a meeting, so to speak. I actually have lived overseas for 16 years. I moved back to India 5 years back, and I've started or co-founded a company where we make diesel from plastic waste. So it's a socially responsible entrepreneur venture. And I wanted to provide whatever little I could as far as mentoring is concerned. And there is very little information or knowledge that I have that pertains to education and all the rest that you've spoken about. But I am a mentor with T-Hub, and they thought it was a good idea for me to be a part of this, to see if there's anything that I can contribute from my side. So that's pretty much all I have to say. And I would really look forward to, just about anything. I'm at your disposal. Whether it is students coming off the university, fresh off the boat, or within the universities in their final year, a lot of students have a lot of ideas that they think are really good. I can help them, I can be the devil's advocate, explain to them the importance of an execution plan, not just a business plan. How do you go about picking an idea? How you go about pitching an idea? How the ecosystem works, and get them get them connected to the other stakeholders, investors and other mentors, functionally and domain-wise, both. So I'm here just to offer my services if it is relevant at all, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin, for your suggestion. Yeah, exactly. I think you can help our students on how to set up the startup companies, what are the ideas that you can bring in, and how to make it functional, what is your experience. You can share your experience. And also, let me also tell you that we have one of the best schools in Asia, School of Medical Sciences, School of Chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah.
Chemistry, yeah, School of Chemistry, and also Center for Earth and Space Sciences. I
Okay.
think both are directly or indirectly related with your effort.
Yes.
So I think it would be a nice idea if you can share your idea on the Natal platform, so that we can connect you to the School of Chemistry or School of Center for Earth and Space Sciences, so that some project can be worked out.
Sure, sir. I would appreciate that. I will look forward to it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, sir, I have a small question. Mr.
Yeah,
Nitin,
yeah,
I missed what do you make out of plastic? I missed that part. Sorry. I mean, it was not clear.
So we make diesel from end-of-life plastic waste. So basically, plastic waste is of 7 different types. We all know chemistry-wise, right? It is a hydrocarbon, and we reverse the process. But it's an open technology, open source technology. And I come from IT. I was a CEO of an IT company for many years in the US. We sold the company. I've always worked with education startups and other IT startups. This was a very different process for me. So coming back to the product that we make, it is from plastic by nature, cannot be recycled beyond a number of times. So that is called end-of-life plastic, which is the plastic that is being dumped in the oceans and in the landfills, right? And unfortunately, in India, it is also being burnt. So we do horrendous, things to the nature. So what do we do with this? So we have a process where we can take it back into the hydrocarbon that it originally was. And because based on the refinement process that we have put in, it is as good as diesel, including its all the physical and chemical properties. Only thing is, because of, like I keep saying people, that we are not limited by technology, we are limited by the commerce part of it. So we cannot run it in your diesel engines or your cars and bikes. Okay, but it is used as a primary fuel or a secondary fuel in heating and burning purposes. For example, we supply to Indian Railways. That's one of our clients. It's a very small application. It is not a very huge thing. It doesn't solve the problem of plastic at all. But in our own way, we have tried to do something. This is apart from my other ventures in IT, but this is something that I thought was as a social responsibility. We make money of it, but we are also trying, you understand social responsibility, right?
So basically, my question was asked because, of course, I was interested also in the process because I am teaching 3 courses. One is ecological anthropology, another one which we have floated environment anthropology, and others natural resource management, which was actually previously taught by Professor Shiv Prasad.
Yeah.
And of course, I see, there are so many overlaps between science and social sciences. And of course, this can open up many more spaces for just not the technical knowledge, but also how does one do kind of a social entrepreneurship in these areas?
Yeah.
So how social science knowledge of how people operate the system with the technical thing, I think there's a lot of scope for that. I mean, that is why I was doing that.
Yeah, there is a lot of scope, and generally these are not as cool as they sound, and the practicality is very different. So what I want to bring in with my mentorship is to take away the cool part of it and tell them the harsh realities of how the economics works and how difficult it is to get the product consistently of the same material and how to sell it. So strategy, selling, and the technical bit is what I want to provide. So
that's the most important, because the idea, how do we further take it ahead? That is something which teachers, I mean, as a teacher, I do not know, because my practice is in a very limited domain.
Yes, no, I understand. So yeah, I would rather, because for my startup, for the first year, I couldn't sell more than 20,000 liters. That is it, the whole year. And then we became one of the biggest in the industry. But I had to change the way of thinking, and I had to approach OEMs. And so that information, if I can give it to somebody, it will save the 3 years of life that I had to struggle with.
Yeah, so I may contact you later on for, being a key person.
Please, sir. I would be more than happy to help.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, not that others are not important, it's just that because
I understand.
Thank you very much, Nitin. Now, Professor Salman has joined. Professor Salman, he is a professor in computer science, School of Computer Science, and also heading a unit called UOH, MHRD in a skill development cell. So, Professor Salman, welcome, and may I request you?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. So I am, of course, not heading the cell, but we try to see that people get trained in some of those aspects. I have been listening very carefully. Yes, we require some skills development, and we used to have in the course curriculum. Just because of the very short limited time of the courses, they have been either moved and so forth. But yes, we are in a process of that implementing of the new education policy. So there is some team where I was invited, and we are also working towards what we call academic bank of credits, ABCs. And of course, in that skill development is a part of it. Now, as per new education policy, and shortly we will be revamping some of our integrated programs on that lines. We are having a discussion, and we also got some letters from the ministry to give our output on that as to how we are progressing. So that is one aspect which we are working. So we'll of course take the point is well taken that as a part of NAP, all this skill development will be a part of course curriculum, and ABC provides that academic bank of credits provides a very broader scope where some of these courses can be done by people from other places and also get into our university. So that is one. Point number two, probably we some of our people here present here, they talked about innovation and startup. Yes, I am the convener of University of Hyderabad, the Institutional Innovation Council. So there are a lot of HRD initiatives. So we take those particular initiatives and take it forward. The entire goal is nothing but train the students right from ideation to totally funded. So in this regards, even we have a lot of hackathons and all are conducted by the government, and students are the innovation ecosystem has to be built in the university. So we are doing a lot in that. And one of our team reached the financial stage now. So that is one of the good thing which we had. That is a students team. And shortly we are going to inaugurate the something called Innovation Club. Because earlier we were just telling the students to do something without providing any infrastructure. So very shortly it will be inaugurated, and that will be taken forward. So that we put a lot of small things there, like some of the IoT devices in our place there. Okay, students can get an idea, come to this particular lab, play with that, and work on it. So this particular initiative is also started. Yeah, coming to the last part of me, which is my placement. I am the in charge for placement. There is chairman and placement advising guidance, chairman and placement for that is for the placement guidance and advisory bureau. So here in this, probably what we do is, of course, we have two parts: training and placements. And of course, I do agree that our goal is not placement, but yes, develop the students. Automatically they get placed. But since training is a part, of course, we are not having it. As one of our friends said that we do training at the end. No, we do it in the entire process, but now we want to start just because we had some challenges now. Challenges is, for example, we used to have the very good package given to an MCA student in our university. Now, MCA was a 3-year program. Now, what happened is this 3-year program is converted to a 2-year program last year by the government. Now, that 2-year output is very bad because they get very less time. So we would like to surely we have to train them even for that particular thing. Otherwise, we are not specifically training them for the placements. So of course, we require probably support from each and everyone to take all these initiatives forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Salman. Professor Salman is very active in promoting academia, industry, NGOs collaboration. And I think all of us listen to him. So we have to now, this meeting is actually to work out whatever is possible, the collaboration with the external stakeholders. So we are happy, and we will certainly be in touch with Professor Salman. We have been already always in touch with him. So he is very active, and he encourages us in organizing such meetings or events. So thank you for participating, Professor Salman. Now may I request Kali Charan to say something and what's idea. Kali Charan. Seems he's not there. So any ideas, any thoughts preliminary to share and to discuss? So if there are, then may I request Professor Shiv Prasad to say a vote of thanks.
Actually, there is one this thing that was mentioned by Bhaskar Venkatesh. I think because he had to leave for some other meeting, he sent me a message, and no, he is willing to work with us, and in fact, he will get in touch with us. This is what he just messaged me because he couldn't say a few words. And of course, a couple of others also have left because of their commitments. And anyway, nevertheless, I must, as Professor Prabhakar Rao has mentioned, I think this is only a beginning. We all should work together for the betterment of the society, not only the student fraternity and university fraternity, but also society at large, including industry, NGOs, and others. For attending to this particular meeting, I must thank all the participants because they have taken their time out in a because this is middle of the week, and also in the morning hours everybody is busy. Some could not join, though they did register, but some have joined because in the beginning I saw around 20, 21, but because of many other issues, people have but they are interested in doing things. We are grateful to every one of them, and we look forward to working with all of you and take the initiatives forward. And I specifically would like to thank each one by the names, because you have all joined at a very short notice, and thank you very much. And in fact, we have a few of our alumni who are doing extremely well. They have very good initiatives that they have been doing. I think it will be a pleasure to work with all of them. And we also are very glad people like Nitin Vidi and others have joined. And it's always a pleasure to have different ideas, and you have brought in new ideas to us. And this platform, I would request every one of you to register on the Talent Co-Creation Lab platform, because that is the most interactive platform, which will be very useful to float ideas and to work out things, and also for many purposes, as Professor Prabhakar has mentioned. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I may now, before we leave, may I request all of you to switch on the video so that we can have a screenshot. So we have to thank Alok for helping us in successful conduct of this event. Thank you, Alok.
Alok
and
is
also
part
I
of us.
thank
I've
once
not done
again
anything.
all of you.
Alok is
All of
part
you,
of
I
us.
thank
That's why
all
I
of
didn't
you,
specifically say.
because on the one hand, we are proud to see that our alumni is suggesting very innovative ideas to us. That is very interesting. Actually, the proud of the teacher is when he is being defeated by his student. Okay, so we have very innovative ideas, all of our alumni, and it is, and also the other representatives and the government organizations, from the industry organizations. We are very much once again thankful to you, and we hope that we will continue our dialogue and we will work more concretely. This is just only a preliminary meeting. We will work more concretely and soon we will get back to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.